This is Bucket Talk, a monthly podcast taking you across America to meet the most badass tradespeople, industry leaders, and personalities. If you're looking to level up in the trades, you're in the right place.
All right, on this episode of Bucket Talk, we're here with Ryan Bjorn. He's the field superintendent for the New England Patriots, Gillette Stadium, the New England Revolution. Welcome.
Thanks for being here.
So this is a pretty prestigious job.
Yeah. I mean, there's only 30 of them in the world when you think about it. As far as NFL stadiums, there's 30 NFL stadiums, and we're pretty unique in that world as well, because we've got the stadium, we have the practice facility for the football team, and the practice facility for the soccer team as well.
Holy cow. So I want to kind of, we're here, we're going to be talking about this, but I kind of want to, pull back the curtain on, how you got here. You're originally from Maine?
Originally from Maine, yep. Born and raised in Old Town, Maine, which is up in central Maine. My mom's side of the family is from up in potato farming country, up in Easton, up in the county. And then, most of my family has moved down to southern Maine now, but yeah, grew up in a paper mill town.
Okay. All right, and then through high school, you were doing what were you doing for work?
Yeah, my first ever job was painting houses with my basketball coach in the summers. That didn't last very long for me, and then I actually jumped on at a hardware store in Old Town. That was my first real job. Worked on that while I was in high school, and then I jumped on at Bangor Municipal Golf Course, little muni up in Bangor, 27 holes. Just as a summer job, I liked being outside, liked working with my hands, and was just working part-time shifts there, working summers there, and that's kind of where I found out about turf management in general.
Yeah.
But then, school didn't go directly into turf in school, but
yeah. So then, when you graduated high school and you were kind of looking to advance your career, that whole landscaping, working with your hands stuff piqued your interest. What was your degree in?
Yeah. So after I left school, I went to a small college in Vermont Technical College,
yep.
And for a couple different reasons. One, because I could continue my quote-unquote basketball career. I was able to play hoops there, and I originally went there for landscape design and ornamental horticulture. My buddy and I had grand plans to open our own landscaping business after college, and so I ended up getting my associate's degree in landscape design and ornamental horticulture. While I was at Vermont, though, I went to a big landscaping trade conference in Boston called New England Grows,
mm-hmm.
and one of the keynote speakers was Dave Meller, who at the time was the head groundskeeper for the Red Sox. And his presentation was really interesting, kind of piqued my interest. Obviously, I've been a Sox fan my whole life, and kind of seeing behind the curtain of what they do there opened my eyes to the sports turf side of things, because I'd known about the golf course superintendents and agronomy on that side, but I didn't really think about it as a sports turf career. So learning about that, and I ended up transferring to UMass after I got my associates in Vermont, and did 4 years at UMass. I went to the Stockbridge School of Agriculture to get my associate's degree in turf management.
Yep.
And then they have a cool program there where you could transfer into the 4-year program at UMass, and so I got a 4-year plant and soil science bachelor's with a concentration in turf management. So
yeah.
Kind of Van Wilder the college experience a little bit, but it was well worth it. Wouldn't change anything.
So forgive me for saying this. You said something that I have no idea, but all that could come to mind was like bonsai trees, ornamental horticulture. What is that?
Yeah, no, I mean that's one of the aspects. Ornamental horticulture is just kind of like the artistic side of landscape design, and so it's like when we would have classes on woody ornamentals, IDing plants, but we'd also have art classes and design classes,
okay.
Architecture classes. So it's really just kind of all encompassing when it comes to the design and everything that comes with the landscape plan.
Cool. So UMass, you graduated, and then what was the first job? How did you apply?
Yeah, so while I was at UMass, I ended up you do an internship, you join the turf club as a freshman, and they give you all these internship opportunities of upperclassmen that have experience, and there are a lot of golf course guys, and it's still in our industry, it's primarily golf course superintendents. Mm-hmm. But I did my first internship at Fenway. That was always my goal, was to get right into sports turf. Had a great connection with the assistant superintendent at the time, Jason Griffith, a fellow county boy from Maine. He's from Caribou. So I think that's how I kind of slipped my way in there and got that internship, and ended up working there all 4 years while I was at UMass. We would work summers, and there was a group of us from UMass, both turf students and not, that would drive back and forth on weekends, spring break, and we just worked there the whole time. So I stayed on at Fenway after I graduated UMass, finished the baseball season in 2010, and didn't have a full-time job yet. He was good friends with the current superintendent here at Gillette, and so he brought me on here as a part-time field crew member for the end of the football season in 2010.
Yeah.
So I had some really good experience, loved working with John in that short period of time. And then when the football season ended, it was a temporary position, and luckily there was a full-time position open in Maryland at a soccer complex called the Maryland Soccer Complex.
Yep.
And it's a 24-field facility, massive complex, 21 natural grass fields, 3 artificial fields. And I started on there. They hired me as assistant manager in training, so kind of bottom rung as far as full-time, and was able to work my way up over the next 3 or 4 years. And when the director of agronomy there left, they hired me on as director and stayed on as director there until I came up here in 2019.
Cool. So walk me through a day in the life with the Red Sox, and then how it compares to the Patriots and the Revolution.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, at least when I was there, I don't know how much things have changed, but in general, baseball is a grind. 82 home regular season games is just a huge amount of work in itself. But then most stadiums, just like ours, are now event-based stadiums. So you have concerts, softball, corporate events, all that stuff too.
Yeah.
But a day-to-day, on a game day, you're in pretty early, 7 o'clock first pitch or whatever. You're probably in, sometimes they split crews, so you might be on the early crew at 6, 7 a.m., prepping the mound, prepping the plate from the night before, mowing, painting lines, just doing everything that you normally would do to get a field ready. Then you get into the game day stuff where you're setting up BP. If the visiting team wants to take BP, you have to take that into account. And then game time is obviously you're out there doing all the pregame work. You're 3rd, 5th, and 7th inning doing your drags during the game, and then post-game cleanup as well. So it could be 12, 15-hour day, no problem.
Awesome. So turf and grass.
Yeah.
What is preferred by most athletes?
It's so hard to say. I think the general consensus, if you ask most people, that they prefer natural grass. Mm-hmm. But I'll say, I prefer natural grass. It's what I went to school for. It's everything that I learned about. And so when we have our 3 natural grass practice fields for football, 3 natural grass practice fields for the soccer team, that's where I spend most of my time, and that's where we focus a lot of our efforts as a crew. But at the same time, the artificial field, the game field, and also the auxiliary soccer field we have, they need to be in good shape. They need to be safe. They need to be playable, and they need to look good, especially obviously the stadium field, whether it's a Revs game or a Patriots game, you got millions of people that are watching at home. And then obviously my thing, and the thing that I love, is that experience of the person who's never been to a game here before, and they walk into the stadium and they walk out the concourse and they see that field. We want it to look good and present well for those people to make an impact when they get here.
That's cool. So you handle everything from, striping to, up here we get weather, so snow removal and all that stuff, down to just making sure that the grass and the turf look fantastic. So that's a full-time job, 7 days a week.
Yeah, I would say most weeks it's 7 days a week in some capacity. It may be just, especially during the summer when things are hot and dry, or you have high disease pressure or whatever it is. You may have to come in and do some checks, make sure irrigation ran, make sure there's no issues. But yeah, like this week, for example, we had a Patriots game this past Sunday. We've started scrubbing the logos throughout the week because we have Revolution 2 games. So today's Thursday. We have a Revolution 2 game on Friday. We have to make sure the football lines are all gone. The soccer lines are there for that. We have a Revolution first team game Saturday night at 7:30, and then we have a Patriots game the next day at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So that means we're here overnight. As soon as that soccer game's over, we're flipping that field out. We're getting all the soccer elements off. We're scrubbing those lines, and then we start painting football, and we have to turn the field over to the league at 9 a.m. on Sunday.
And you do this with a crew of how many?
We have a full-time staff of 7. So I have myself. I have 2 assistant superintendents, one that oversees the football training fields, one that oversees the soccer training fields, and then 4 other full-time guys.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So these guys must be dialed.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I say it a lot, and it probably not enough at the end of the day, but we have an incredible crew here. We've stolen both of our assistants from the golf world, so we're trying to open people's eyes to the fact that sports surf is a really great opportunity, and the the other full-time guys we have a couple who were, part-time employees at the stadium that had just expressed interest in what we did at the field crew, and we brought them on, and they've been rock stars. We had 2 full-time guys that had no turf background whatsoever, really fell in love with it. We brought them out to the National Sports Turf Conference, and they really kind of have bought in. And so we actually provided them to be able to get their winter turf school certificate. So they went to winter turf school with Ohio State, got their certificate, and now they're turf people. So
wow,
we love that, how bought in our staff is, and as long as these weeks and as long as these days can be, we try and make it fun. We try and keep it lighthearted and do our best to have a good time.
Now you lightly touched on it, but the makeup of the guys, some people have college background, some people come from the landscaping and hardscaping industry, and then some just have no experience and just want to try it out. So you got a good mix of people.
Exactly, and that's what it's all about for me with the crew, is like you want to make sure that you have a wide variety of people on your staff. If you have 10 guys that are all the exact same, it's going to get monotonous. People are going to get on each other's nerves. And obviously that happens anyway when you work an 80-hour week. But, you want to have different strengths, different weaknesses. You want to be able to have somebody that has a strength in one thing that can pick up a weakness of someone else and help them learn and improve. And our guys are really good about that.
Cool. Now talk us through just like grass in general. So you had made mention that a lot of athletes like grass because it's easier on the joints and, it's a little bit more safer. Obviously they'll play on turf, but practicing 5, 6, 7 days a week, they want to do it on grass. What does it take to maintain a field to their standard kind of from step one?
Yeah, that's a loaded question. There's a lot that goes into it. It starts with a good base, a good construction of your fields, and we've been lucky here last fall. We were able to rebuild our 2 main football fields, practice fields, and grading is super important because you got to be able to move water. On a day like today, obviously it's pouring down rain here. They could practice outside if they wanted to because of the work that we've put in, but then you pick your grass variety. You've got bluegrasses, ryegrasses, all kinds of different varieties of grass that you can choose from. Those are the 2 that we use primarily here.
Okay.
Our soccer facility is almost 100% bluegrass. Football, we start with 100% bluegrass, and we'll throw some ryegrass into the mix in the fall because it germinates and will grow in colder weather and is very quick. Yep. So when the guys are out there beating the fields up, 5, 6 days a week, like you talk about, our goal is to always have new plant material generating all the time. So we're overseeding or just taking a push spreader and pushing seed, what we call it, down the gut. So essentially in between the hashes.
Yep.
And so we're always getting new seed into it so that it's always germinating so that we don't completely wear out the fields throughout the year.
Yeah.
But then you talk about fertilization, cultural practices, chemical applications, whatever it is. We do a lot of soil testing here, so we're figuring out what the soil needs from a nutrient standpoint and applying our fertilizers and anything else that we're doing based on that, rather than just whether it's a gut feeling or sticking on a schedule. We'll base what the plant needs and we'll give it what it needs rather than just throwing some fertilizer out.
Yeah, and then irrigation. So I'm sure it's not unique to this stadium, but you guys use a ton of water to irrigate, and that was kind of built into this plan. You guys have your own reservoir, basically?
Yeah, so in 2019, as part of the construction of the new Revolution training facility, they installed 2 new irrigation pumps, which is a massive help for us because up until that point, we were using a VFD pump on a well, which is just not enough water for 15 acres of grass. And so we installed 2 dedicated pumps, one that handles the Revolution side of things, one that handles the Patriot side of things, and they also put in the irrigation pond. So it's a great thing because now we're filling it up on a day like today and we won't have to use any well water, but we do have a dedicated well just for irrigation if we need it.
Yep.
So in the summer, if we do get really dry and that pond starts to dry out, we can fill that pond with our well water. So we're not using any public water, we're not doing anything like that, but we have everything self-contained here at the site.
That's crazy. And then when we did our walk and talk, you were talking about how when they installed the Revs practice field that it's heated.
2 natural grass fields that are dedicated just for the first team. One of those has a hydronic heating system,
Yep.
so like a radiant heating,
Yep.
a radiant floor at your house.
Right.
It's just that, but on a much larger scale. So we've got 33 miles of PEX tubing that run under that field, and we can keep the soil temps. We measure our temperature at 3 inches deep in the soil, and we can maintain whatever temperature we want all year. It doesn't matter what the ambient air temperature are. We've melted 12 to 15 inches of snow in 36 hours.
Wow.
And it's just trying to get the moisture down through the profile after that. Yep.
So what's the thought process behind a heated field? Why not dome it? Kind of walk me through that.
Yeah, so the genesis, and it was all the decisions were made before I got here in 2019. The installation was happening when I started, but the background is the soccer season, MLS season in the U.S. is a long season. Teams report in January. The championship generally is until December. So it's almost a 12-month season. Now, in New England, obviously, we're not getting a lot of grass growing in January, so generally the team will always go to a warm weather climate for preseason and spend a couple weeks either in Florida or California or wherever it is. The thought behind putting the heating system in on the field was that knowing that we can grow grass and maintain our soil temperatures where we need to, that they can stay here and practice in January, and they've done that. They still do go away for some preseason exhibition matches and a couple weeks here and there, but we're essentially mowing grass in snowstorms if we need to, because we can maintain our soil temperature. It's essentially just a giant heated floor.
Yeah.
It's just a radiant heating system that's 10 inches below the surface.
Yeah.
And we can maintain that soil temp anywhere from 65, 70 degrees if we need to. So
that's awesome.
But yeah, so the heating system it's a really amazing thing. It's taken us a couple of years. We got it turned on and fired up, literally and figuratively, in like right after Christmas of 2021.
Okay. Yeah.
And it took us a good season and a half to really figure out our maintenance practices when it comes to it, because we've never grown grass here 12 months a year. So our nutrient, like how do we fertilize? How do we maintain our plant growth regulator throughout the winter season when everything else is dormant?
Yeah.
The air temperatures are really cold, but the grass is still actively growing. It's thrown kind of a wrench into how we do things, but it's been a fun challenge for us to try and figure that out.
It sounds like one big science experiment.
It is. It really is. I mean, that when you're talking about turf management and plant and soil science and going to school for that, the background is heavily based in science and some mathematics as well. But it's nice to be able to use a lot of that education that we got and kind of put it into use here when we're talking about stuff like that.
Now, I know you got a small group of guys, and sometimes when you have a small group of guys and you're only focused on your specific area, you have institutional knowledge of that place and that place only. Do all the groundskeepers, field superintendents talk among teams and like, hey, I got this going on. What do you think I should do here? I mean, is it one big like brotherhood?
Big time. It's one of my favorite things about this industry, and it's not even sports field specific. Obviously, we have a lot more, we being sports field managers, have a lot more, like you said, institutional knowledge of how to maintain this specific type of grass in these conditions. But even just golf course superintendents, local golf course superintendents, we're sharing equipment. We're talking about challenges. Like we haven't had, it looks like it's pouring today, but we've been in almost a drought situation for the past couple months.
Yeah.
So like, different ways to combat that. And we also have trade organizations. So there's the National Sports Field Managers Association, which connects all sports field managers of all levels, from Parks and Rec to schools to public universities, professional sports, and then there are local chapters of that too. So there's a New England chapter, New England Sports Field Managers Association, and even you can get sports specific now. We have the Professional Football Field Managers Alliance, which is a mouthful, but that's all professional football field managers in the country. And we actually hosted the meetings this year here in Foxborough. We had like 160 guys and girls that work on the fields in the NFL and other professional sports that are here, and we're bouncing ideas, having good talks, and it's a great kind of brotherhood, like you said. And I know that if I need advice or if I'm having a challenge, there's 15, 20 guys I can pick up a phone and text or call, and they feel the same way.
So obviously, this is our home team. We love the Patriots, and there's nothing better than Gillette Stadium and what goes on here. But take that out of the equation.
Yeah.
What is your favorite, from your perspective? What is your favorite stadium out there? Whether it's baseball, football, like what is the one that you're like, that's nice. I wish I could do some of that stuff here.
Yeah, I think there's two answers to that question. I think just from my heart, it's probably Fenway.
Okay.
It's just there's so much history there. I spent a lot of time there kind of like developing in my career, and it's an amazing place. It's a pretty special place. But from like my turf nerd side of things, it's Arizona and Las Vegas right now because of the way they have their turf system. So both of those stadiums, they're natural grass fields, but they're in a giant tray and they can roll that tray outside so that if they have events in the stadium, they can take that grass outside, grow and maintain the grass field outside, and then roll it back in on game days.
Interesting.
Yeah, so like that type of technology, and then you go into overseas, like Real Madrid's new stadium, they have that, but even on steroids, where it's in, I think it's 5 panels. The panels run lengthwise, they split apart, and there's a giant elevator system. So one panel will go down all the way to the bottom. They'll have grow lights and irrigation and everything that goes over top of that. The next one goes down, and it's like a giant like sheet pan in the field that goes down however deep it needs to, and they can maintain that grass. They mow it, irrigate it, they have grow lights underground. So if they have some other event like an NFL game at Tottenham, they'll do the same thing where they can have an artificial field for the game, or if they have, trade show or whatever other event they have, they can be maintaining the grass either underground or outside so that you're not damaging the playing surface.
That's kind of crazy that these elaborate systems that are, constantly changing and evolving are more cost effective and maintainable than just like, rolling out new turf or whatever, that they would invent this elevator system and have all this stuff, and that would be more cost effective than...
I can't speak to the finances. I don't know that it's more cost effective.
Yeah.
I think it's more especially when you're talking about the Premier League, their primary focus is playing surface quality.
Yep.
So they're going to spend, they would potentially spend more money to maintain that quality regardless of, what it means operationally.
Yeah.
It's probably, I would say it's almost definitely cheaper to just roll out new sod, but the quality of that field is not going to be as good as if they maintain it the way they do.
Yeah. And you went pretty deep into turf management and grass and all that stuff, and that's kind of the thesis of why we're sitting down. But you talked about you guys are an event venue. What kind of challenges does that throw at you? Because that's completely separate of what you went to school for, what you do on a daily basis, and now you throw Garth Brooks in the mix or Taylor Swift. Like what does that do?
Yeah. So that's probably the biggest advantage of having an artificial turf stadium field is, the event load that they can put out there without, increasing the risk of field failure or issues on the field is massive. Mm-hmm. And so our football season, if we have a year where we have 2 preseason home games, our maximum amount of games is probably 9 or 10 football games. We have more concerts than that every single year. Yeah. We have graduations, we have monster trucks, we have Supercross, we have all these other events that are massive revenue generators, which is key to be able to do what we have to do here. But at the same time, from a field standpoint, our goal is always safety and playability. So we'll do a lot of work leading into those events to make sure that the field is as prepped as it can be before they start putting the flooring in. And then as soon as they're pulling that flooring out, we're out there with magnets, with sweepers, with grooming brushes to make sure that, we collect any debris that's out there, get the field safe as priority number 1. And then aesthetics and playability, that comes next with all the grooming that we do and then getting it painted. But we had multiple times this year where we would have a concert on a Thursday night. Loadout starts immediately after the show. So production comes out, steel comes out, stage comes out, then flooring starts coming out probably Friday evening. We get access to the field 6 a.m. on Saturday, and we've got a Revs match Saturday night. So it's our windows of maintenance get smaller and smaller, but our goal is always the same, is to have the best possible service that we can after those events.
So you guys just had a Supercross event that was super wet and super rainy. Yep. Tons of dirt moved in here. Now, when you talk about flooring, like, what is the makeup of this flooring to be able to handle the impacts of monster trucks jumping over jumps to, thousands of people in a pit, enjoying themselves at a concert? Like, it's got to be some pretty good stuff.
There's 2 different styles. So for the dirt events, the Monster Jams, the Supercrosses, they'll actually bring in essentially just like plastic sheeting, just vinyl plastic sheeting. They'll roll that out, and then they'll put 2 layers of 3/4 inch plywood, and then they'll put the dirt on that.
Okay.
So it's just you're talking 300 to 350 dump truck loads of dirt going out there. It's a massive amount of weight. It's a massive amount, and the dirt actually acts as protection for us in a way. The thing with Monster Jam that's always everybody, at least field managers, are worried about is like a broken axle or something where they come out on a massive jump, the axle breaks and it drives through the ground, because I've heard horror stories of that getting through the dirt, through the plywood, through the plastic, and actually impaling into the field.
Yeah.
That's worst case scenario.
Yeah.
For concerts, it's a heavy duty drivable plastic flooring that goes out. It interlocks, so the crew that lays it will come out. We'll have a string line down for them so they can get the first row perfectly straight. Then they'll start locking it all into place. And then at times we'll have 2 cranes and 10 to 15, 18 wheelers out on the field as they're offloading all at the same time.
Wow.
And that's something that you can do that on a natural grass field. You can put that flooring out, you can do all that work, but that once it's coming out, you got to strip that field out and resod it. For us, with the artificial, we know that we can pull that flooring out, get it safe, get it playable within 6 to 8 hours generally. So that helps us out.
That sounds like a lot.
It's an immense amount of work. It's a crazy amount of events. I mean, we're one of the busiest stadiums in the country, if not the world, and we also have the weather factor. So, my buddy down in Atlanta, Parker, like they do probably some of the most sporting events, most non-sporting events. But the thing I always give them a hard time for is they don't have to worry about it if it's raining. We've got this overnight flip this weekend where if it was going to be like this all night, we'd be in real trouble. We'd be out there with just aerosol, shaking cans of aerosol and painting with aerosol, where if we had a roof, we could just close the roof and we wouldn't have to worry about it.
Yeah, I mean, there's something special about it. I mean, it was the same with Bill's Stadium. Like, they're redoing it now, and, they're going to put some awnings in and whatnot, but the reality is they still want that. They still want that open concept.
Yeah, and the Bills' new stadium is going to be an engineering marvel from a field standpoint. From a stadium standpoint, they've got our field heating system that we have out at the Revs. Mm-hmm. That's one field of glycol heat. Their field is going to be heated. Their warning track will have a separate, and this is all through the grapevine. So if I'm speaking out of turn, I apologize. But my understanding is the field will be heated. The warning track will have a separate heating system that's an even more intense heating system so they can melt snow. They can always plow. And then the entire roof is heated. So when they get those massive snowstorms, they're melting that snow as it's falling so you don't get that huge amount of weight that snow would have on it.
Yeah, lake affects snow. I mean, they get serious snow up there.
Big time. And it's so cool to see them being a natural grass field. And those guys up there are going to kill it. I can't wait to see what they do with it.
Now, in your opinion, and it may be based in fact or not, why don't we bring the Super Bowls up north?
Yeah, that's an NFL question. As far as I understand it, I think there's some pretty specific requirements that are needed from a stadium to host. I don't know if it's seating capacity or hotels, or I'm sure there's all kinds of stuff that goes into it. The weather factor is a big one. I know they did it in New York. I don't know how, maybe 8-9 years ago now. And I think they got really lucky with the weather that year, which is great. And they did it in Minnesota, but that's indoor. So you always have to, when you're talking about New England and Foxborough in February, it could be a decent day, could be 30 and 40 and sunny, but we also could be getting 3 feet of snow in a big storm. So
now, I'm not well versed in soccer, but there's something major coming here, correct?
Yeah, pretty big tournament coming up. We've got the World Cup next year, so we're one of 16 stadiums in the U.S., Canada, and Mexico. There's 3 in Mexico, 2 in Canada, and 11 in the U.S. that are hosting.
Oh, interesting.
It's without question the biggest sporting event in the world. They're expecting, billions with a B of viewers watching this thing. They've expanded the field for the first time, so it's literally the biggest tournament they've ever done.
Yeah.
They've added more teams, and we're super excited to host. I think it's truly a once in a lifetime opportunity to be able to host something like that.
Now, is it just another day on the job, or are there a lot of things that you guys are prepping for, new equipment, new knowledge, schools, whatever, to be able to host something like that? Or
definitely not another day on the job. It's for that tournament we have to be natural grass field. So part of that is we have to strip the artificial field out once the football season's done in January, and we have a bunch of work to do on the field. We've done a good bit of prep work. We had our irrigation line in 2 years ago when we resurfaced, so we've done a lot of the prep work that we need to, but the majority of the field work is going to start the day after our last football season, or our last football game. And our goal is to have sod down in mid-February to open the MLS, and we're actually hosting the NWSL, the National Women's Soccer League. Boston has an expansion team. Their stadium's not going to be ready, so we're hosting them next year too. So we'll have MLS and NWSL playing on natural grass in March, and then we have an exclusive window where we can't have any events on the field 30 days leading into the World Cup. So our first game is June 13th, and our last game is July 9th.
Wow.
Yeah. 7 games. We've got 5 group stage games.
And then you got to rip it out and go back to turf.
Yeah, there's still some discussions on that.
Whether you stay grass?
Yeah, I think the plan, I don't know how much I can say or can't say, but we're operating with the attitude that we'll be going back to artificial after the World Cup.
But that creates challenges, for events during that window,
Yep.
right? Is like now everything we talked about just gets exponentially harder.
Yep.
And then if you did stay, then that just becomes a never-ending cycle of...
Yeah, and listen, I mean, I think we can't have any of those extra events we talked about in the spring next year.
Okay.
They being the people that booked this stadium, our goal is to still host lots of events next year.
Mhm.
So what's going to happen is from the second that World Cup tournament is over,
Yep.
our fall next year is going to be
Loaded.
wildly busy. We've already announced we've got Ed Sheeran in, I think, October. I forget the date, but he's our first concert that's been announced so far.
That's going to be wild.
Yeah, and we're going to have, we'll have MLS, NWSL, NFL concerts, and who knows however many other events. We're going to slam that window that's normally from, March to August or September. That's all going to be from late July all the way through the end of October.
Awesome. So now I'm going to ask a tough question. So, we've gone through everything and everything sounds wonderful and, you got the dream job and whatnot, but what keeps you up at night?
Weather. Weather is kind of the one thing we can't control.
Yeah.
Our big thing is controlling as many variables as we possibly can. And when we talk about things like drainage or the heating system, we're controlling moisture content, we're controlling soil temperature.
Yeah.
But the one thing we can't control is what Mother Nature is going to do to us. So as we get into a week like this, we've known we've had this overnight flip this weekend for months. My biggest thing is what's the weather going to be like Saturday night?
Yeah.
And we don't really know. I mean, we have an idea. It looks, knock on wood, that it looks pretty decent right now, but it's New England. Things could change in a heartbeat, and we could be dealing with rain. So those are the things that keep me up at night are the things I can't control.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, obviously for Gillette Stadium, New England Patriots and the Revolution, this is the dream job. There is no other place you'd want to go. But a person like you, what's next? What is there a higher level, or is this it?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's one that it gets talked about a lot, I think. And for me, I don't really look at it like that. I kind of look at it like, what's next for me here?
Mm-hmm.
And, we've crossed a couple milestones. One of them was, like I talked about, doing the renovation on the practice fields. Obviously the World Cup is a huge one.
Yep.
But like big events, kind of unique events, like we hosted the Army-Navy game 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And for me, that was one of those things that I'd never gotten to experience. And it was a really amazing event. And, the football game aside, just all the pomp and circumstance and the extra stuff that goes on, it just kind of makes you feel a different way about an event. So those are the things that I look forward to. And, they're currently trying to build a new stadium in the city of Boston for the Revolution. So like, to me, those are the things that I look forward to as kind of what's next, are the big milestones, the big things that we can kind of check off on our internal resume to say, wow, I can't believe we pulled that off.
That's cool. Now, for listeners out there that want to get into the field, what's the best? I know you've talked about like 3 different avenues getting in. One, just not knowing anything and knowing the right people, or applying and being able to get there. What are they better suited for? Going to school for turf management, or hitting the job and doing landscaping for a little while, understanding how to work tools and use the equipment, and then maybe going to school? Like, what's the best avenue?
Yeah, I don't think there's a bad one. I think it just depends on where you're at in your life at the time, right?
Yeah.
If you're a high school student and you like being outside, or you're already working on a golf course, or you're working landscaping during the summers and it's something that you like, then that's maybe school is the right option first.
Mm-hmm.
If you're already out of school and you're looking for a change, and you take care of your home lawn, or you follow any of these like lawn Instagram or TikTok accounts that people are like crazy about their home lawns, and you find that interesting, maybe it's worth a try. And, the great thing about our industry is that to get into it, you don't have to have a turf degree. You can join as a, one of our guys was a firefighter, and he worked here part-time at the stadium, and now he's a turf guy.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things is like, just get interested, get involved. Maybe if it's something you're interested in, jump into a part-time role, because stadiums like us, we're always looking for part-time help, whether it's just during the week or on game days or whatever it is.
Right.
See if you really like it. And then, like I said, if you're in school and it's something that you're considering, definitely go to a turf school. And if you're a turf student, do as many different internships as you can. Try golf, try sports surf, work at a sod farm, work at a sports surf construction firm, and see what you like the most. Because that was my biggest thing is, I started in golf, and I went into baseball, and then I tried, municipal complex down in Maryland, and, now I'm here doing soccer and football.
Awesome. Stupid but fun question.
All right.
if there was going to be a 7-on-7, meaning your field crew against other field crews, who would take first, second, and third? Obviously, we'd have to take first, but seriously, who would stack up against you guys?
Well, if you're not first, you're last, right? Are we talking athletics or are we talking like field crew techniques?
I'd say field crew techniques. I mean, you guys got diversity covered.
Wow. All right. Man, there's so many there's so many good crew. Like everyone in our industry is great. I think. Oh man, this is really tough. Other multi-use stadiums are great. Natural grass stadiums, they have a whole different animal. It's so hard to say. I don't know if I could put a crew at the top. I'm gonna put our crew at the top. We're Gillette Stadium Field Crew, gold medal, and then everybody else is competing for silver. So that's my easy. I'm not gonna single anybody out.
First, you're last, right? That's awesome. That's awesome.
I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry to all the other field crew. I didn't know what to say.
No, that's perfect. I mean, my brother-in-law is a Giants fan, so we're gonna put them at the bottom.
Sorry, Bobby. Sorry, Tyler.
But yeah, no. Honestly, thanks for being on the podcast. It's been amazing to be a part of this organization, to be able to support you guys on the field crew. There's a lot of behind the scenes things that happen, when you sit down to watch that game on Sunday for a couple hours with your family. You don't realize like how much preparation, time, elements that you had to fight and work through. And, obviously we appreciate the men and women who put this stuff together and allow us to enjoy, Monday night games, Thursday night games, Sunday night games and beyond. So thank you for everything. It was great having you on and awesome.
I appreciate you guys having me. And I've said it to anybody who asks, because obviously there's been a lot that's come out with the BRUNT partnership that we've had. And for me, it's an easy one. Like once from our initial meeting that we had up in the stadium conference room, what you guys said wasn't, hey, we want to be here because of it's the Patriots. We want to be here because it's the stadium. It's like your ultimate goal is to get the right gear into the hands of the right people. And I can say without question, all of our guys love all the stuff that you guys have done.
Awesome.
So it's been a great partnership to be a part of. And, we appreciate you guys taking care of us.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Welcome to the family.
Yeah.